Hello, everyone. Just to handle some housekeeping tips, we will be starting right at 11 o'clock. So we've got just a few minutes to go. Thank you for being here, and we'll get started in a few minutes. Okay, hello, everyone. For anyone else who's joining in the last couple minutes, we will get started right at 11 o'clock. So welcome to our presentation, and we'll be starting in just a couple more minutes here. Hello to everybody that's joining us. Thank you for attending. We've got just a couple more minutes until we'll get started, and we'll be starting right at 11 o'clock. So thanks for joining us, and hold tight for just a few. Hey. All right, it's 11 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So I am Joy Zelenak. I am the sales counselor here at Porter Hills Village, working with new residents moving into our community. But we're here today to learn about our positive approach to care. And that is going to be put on by Stephanie Troeger and Megan Garlock. So these ladies will be taking over in just a moment. Just to cover a couple quick housekeeping things. Everyone here is muted. Everyone's cameras are off, so you'll just be seeing our presenters. However, we welcome your questions, so please feel free to use the Q&A and type in your questions, and then we'll go through and answer all of those at the end. So thank you guys all so much for being here today, and I'll let the ladies take it away.
Well, my name is Stephanie Troeger. I'm the dementia care specialist and PAC certified independent coach. I've been with Porter Hills for 5 years now. I started off as a med tech in assisted living. I did that for a few years, and then I took a promotion to be a caregiver retention specialist, where I stayed with new hires for their first 90 days and make sure they were supported and had everything they need. And then about 8 months ago, I took this position as a dementia care specialist. So we are implementing PAC into our memory care and health center, but I've been doing healthcare for about 20 years. So I've been working with the elderly for a very long time.
And I'm Megan Garlock. I am the Community Engagement Manager here at Porter Hills Village. And I have been with our organization for 19 years now, working in a variety of capacities. And I am so glad to work with Stephanie with the positive approach to care. You'll learn all about what this is and how we incorporate it into our team trainings and also into everyday life here. And hopefully we'll come away with some tips on maybe things that you could utilize in your own life.
So positive approach to care. What is positive approach to care, or PAC? It is founded by Teepa Snow, dementia care expert. And her vision is positive approach to care enhances life and relationships with those living with brain change by fostering an inclusive global community. And her mission statement is using our talents and abilities to develop awareness, knowledge, and skill with all people that will transform what exists into a more positive dementia care culture. And what do you think of when you hear the word dementia? Just take a second and kind of think of some things that you may think of when you hear that term. You may hear of memory loss or unable to complete tasks or do cares, but dementia is just not a diagnosis. It's a condition that covers over 120 different types of brain changes, all under the term of dementia, the umbrella term of dementia, sorry. These include Alzheimer's, Lewy body, and vascular. So dementia is just not a memory problem. It means brain failure and causes many changes in structural and chemical function. So we are looking at two brains here. The one on the left is a healthy brain, and the one on the right is a brain with someone at the end of life that's lived with Alzheimer's. What do you notice different about the two? Clearly, they are smaller, correct? But the brain with Alzheimer's still has neurological connections and they're still in there. They still can make that connection. So they're still there. 4 truths about dementia: at least 2 parts of the brain are dying. It's chronic and cannot be fixed. It's progressive and it will get worse. And the last but most horrible is it is terminal and there is no cure. So until there is a cure, there is care, and that is where we come in.
Yeah, Stephanie was mentioning there are a lot of negative connotations and stereotypes and stigma associated with living with dementia. One of the reasons we like this model or this approach to care is that it doesn't take a focus on the deficits. It's not a deficit model. It's a positive model. So what does the person retain? What are still their strengths and skills? And how can we as care partners help that person stay as independent as they can, allowing them to provide their own care, to do things on their own, to have a full and meaningful life. And so at the core of the positive approach to care is this GEM states model. And when you think about a gem, you think, oh, they're valuable. We honor them, we keep them clean, we value them. They're pretty, they're attractive. And so as you look at this chart from left to right, you have the sapphire, diamond, emerald, amber, ruby, and pearl. And each one of those gems has their own unique ways of communicating. They have their own unique ways of seeing the world, how they interpret it. But also it's for us as care partners to understand where a person is at any given time and how we will approach that person and adapt our own skills to help them in that moment. So as you look at this scale or this model from left to right, you see sapphire. And sapphire is that true blue individual. We like to think of ourselves in a calm state as somebody with a healthy brain, that we would be sapphires. We would be able to adapt our own situation, acknowledge what's actually the reality of what the world is happening in the world around us, and adapt accordingly. And then it progresses over to a diamond. And when a sapphire is tired or stressed out or something else is going on, they're distracted, a sapphire can move into a diamond state. And that's where you start to maybe forget some items, maybe forget words, get frustrated a little bit more easily. And that's the important thing in the gem state model for our care partners to understand, our teammates to understand, is that even though a person's living with dementia, and they could be towards the end of their life or progress through the dementia, the disease process, they can move in and out of these gem states. It's a state. It's not a severely prognosed dementia. A person who we would consider maybe perhaps to be in an amber state could go back to emerald from time to time. They could go into ruby. And as care partners, we need to understand that and take up the clues or the cues that that person is providing us so that we can adapt what we are doing to help them have a successful life. Okay, and so to start with any interaction we have with a person living with dementia, it starts with the approach. It starts with that relationship that we are building. And here's a little secret. This approach is not just for people living with dementia. This approach is really a universal topic. It works for everybody. And I'm going to go through a little demonstration of what this is and understand that this is something that we train all of our care partners, all of our teammates to do, and how it's our expectation that if we're entering into a person's space, that we honor their choices and their independence and accommodate as needed. So this, what you see on the screen now, is what is called the positive physical approach. And it's all about how we're starting an interaction with an individual. So Stephanie, if you don't mind, let's switch spots a second. And you'll see why we're doing this in a second. So anytime a care partner, one of our resident assistants, for example, enters an apartment of one of our residents, no matter who they are, we want to stop in their doorway and knock on their door and announce that we're here. So we stop here and we say, "Hi, Stephanie, it's Megan." And what I'm doing here is putting my hand next to my face and I'm holding it there. I'm acknowledging that I am here and that they are there. So the first bullet here says pause at the edge of public space. It's important for our team members to know that there's public space and there's private space and then intimate space. So public space starts at 6 feet. So if Stephanie and I are putting our arms out, that's about 6 feet away from an individual. We're get real good during the pandemic of acknowledging where 6 feet is. So that should be fairly familiar for most people. But if you are with a partner right now, maybe you could practice that and maybe you could take these steps as I go along it and see how it goes. So we pause at that doorway or 6 feet and greet it by name. "Hi, Stephanie, it's Megan." "Hi, Megan." I'm introducing myself. So I gesture and greet that person by their preferred name. And then I offer her my hand and make eye contact. Most of the time when I offer a hand, it's a social cue that most people will pick up and also then extend their hand. So Stephanie just extended her hand to me, and that's allowing me that opportunity perhaps to get closer to her. Okay, so backing up, there's usually a reason that we go into a person's space. With our care team, it could be that they are checking on the person or they're helping provide some sort of care. We have our agenda. We use this as in PAC, the positive approach to care, we use a lot of hand gestures. We know our agenda, but we don't want to show our agenda to the person that we're interacting with. Because when we have an interaction with an individual, it's not just a task that we're trying to accomplish. It's that we are helping this person do the task for themselves that needs to be done. They have a need that needs to be met, and we are here to support that need. So when I say that, it will come together as we do this approach. So I greet her by name. She's giving me permission now to get a little bit closer, but I want to make sure I'm going slowly and within her visual range. So Stephanie, step up a little bit here. So on that gem state, I was showing there's different columns for those gems. And at the bottom of each column, we'll go into this in a little bit more in depth later on, but it talks about a visual range. So in the different gem states, we recognize that individuals have brain change, and that impacts their visual field. So it says approach slowly within a visual range. That is intentional because we need to understand where that person's visual range is. So Stephanie, I'm going to assume right now, we'll pretend you're in a diamond state.
Okay.
And maybe you are in a diamond state. I don't know. But with a diamond state, it's her visual field may be here. So I need to make sure I'm not coming from behind. I'm not coming from the side. I'm coming into a space where she can see me and she can acknowledge my presence and kind of anticipate what's happening. So the other thing, go ahead. Yep. Thank you. So with brain change, processing does become impacted, and even normal aging, sometimes processing will be impacted. We want to make sure to move slowly so that we're not all of a sudden in her face. Okay, so she offered her hand. I'm going to approach slowly within her visual range. And this says maintain hand under hand. This is another thing that we're going to go in depth into in a little while. This is a skill that we teach our team members. And we talk about skill and knowledge. And so this skill is something that we move into with our team members. So we grasp our thumbs like this, like a little bird. And then we make a fist like this. This will allow us later on to help move her body. Okay, hand under hand. So now I'm moving to her side. Stephanie is right-handed, and I know this. That's why I switched sides with her in the beginning. So I move to her dominant side. I get to her side, and I'm also knowing, okay, what do I do with this hand? If I put my hand here on your shoulder, Stephanie, is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, does that feel comfortable?
It does.
Okay, I'm getting some communication back and forth to her. All right, so now I'm at the side. Also, by the way, noticing where my body is compared to hers. If I were up here bending over her, how does that feel?
Not very comfortable.
Not very comfortable. Am I nervous right now? Am I making you nervous? Yeah, I'm gonna move back to the side here. All right, so move to the side. And then it says to get to eye level and respect intimate space. We're pretty close right now. It's intimate space, not that public space of 6 feet away. Now we're in intimate space. So get to eye level. It's really easy for us to get to eye level by bending over, but we get into that control factor. Like it's a really threatening position for me to bend over to her. Also, it's not within her visual range. So I want to get low. So I could either have a seat next to her. If there was a chair, I could get on one knee, genuflect next to her, or I could just simply, hey, kind of lean backwards myself to give a little bit more space here, but respecting that. Also, this is the opportunity now. I'm taking her lead in the care that we're about to provide. This gives us a lot of clues, and we'll talk about that again in a little bit. So let's go through it one more time. From the beginning, I'll just run through it. I'm not running because we go slow. Okay, so Stephanie. Hi, it's Megan. Hi, Megan. Hi. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah. Oh, I love your smile. You got such a great smile. Yeah. Did I start with a task?
No.
No. Did I ask if you had to go to the bathroom? No. What did I do first?
Complimented me.
Yeah, I made a connection. Really important to have that relationship first, and then before we move into our agenda. Okay. So Stephanie's going to talk a little bit more about that specific brain change and what I was talking about with that approach.
So we're going to talk about visual data. So if everyone can put their arms out to their side and wiggle their fingers. I know you can't see mine, but they're wiggling. At a normal age of 25, you should be able to see your fingers wiggling. At 75, with someone that's starting dementia at the early stage, it's about 45 degrees in. And then as it progresses, it just gets smaller and smaller. So they go from maybe binocular vision, which is C's, or monocular vision, which is the O's, or they may have limited vision. So people with dementia pay more attention to what they see than what they can hear. And then we're going to talk about some auditory data.
Just dropped our papers.
Sorry.
Everything's fine. So sorry if you heard that.
So it's not what we do wrong, it's what we can do to make it better. So as care partners like to talk, people with dementia is focused on how we look visually and not that they're processing the content. So on the left side, we lose language, vocabulary, comprehension, and speech. And then on the right, we retain. So forbidden words, social chit chat, poetry, music, autonomic responses like shaking somebody's hand. So again, we lose on the left that skill, but we retain on the right that strength.
So as we are working with a person living with dementia and knowing those brain changes are happening, it's up to us to figure out what, or it's potentially up to us to figure out what's happening. Sometimes the person can tell us. If they're not able to tell us, we need to be able to recognize that. So we want to be a detective and not judge that person living with dementia or living with brain change. You may have heard the term behaviors. I always do behaviors in quotation, or combative with care, or resistant, or things like that. Again, that's all of a connotation. And again, we focus on the enabling connotations. So we want to know, what is that person asking for? All behavior is a form of communication, and typically that communication is expressing an unmet need. So we want to look, listen, offer, and think. We want to take a look around that environment we're in. Perhaps we know that person's routine, so we can think about what would they normally be doing about this time of day. Maybe offer a suggestion, and they could say yes or no. But it's really up to us to be those detectives. That positive physical approach is our screening tool. So I talked about making that eye contact. If Stephanie were not making that eye contact or allowing me to come into her space, that gives me a pretty strong indication that she doesn't want me there. I would back away and see, maybe reapproach, or ask my team what's going on, or just kind of take a look at the environment to see what else is happening. Maybe they're tired. Maybe they just want to go to sleep. So the sequence for acknowledging those cues, or the sequence for providing the cues is those three things. Go first with visual, verbal, and then physical touch. So when I'm approaching Stephanie and I say, are you thirsty? I want to use on myself first. I'm kind of indicating thirsty, drinking cup kind of thing. Do this first and then say, ooh, are you thirsty? She could perhaps pick up on one or both of those items. And then if I had the cup and I was bringing it to her, I have to do that approach all over again, by the way. Every time I come back into the space, I have to use that approach again, every time. So she's thirsty. I'm going to go get her drink, come back with my agenda now, and do this all over again. So I did my approach. I have my cup. It's like, ooh, hey, thirsty? And then I can offer her the cup. If she can take it, she can do it. If not, I may need to get into my hand under hand, which is that touch, and then bring it to her mouth with her assistance. The last bullet here says, match your help to the remaining abilities. So understanding that physical approach, positive physical approach, going slow, assessing the environment here, assessing the feedback she's giving me. It could be verbal, it could be a visual cue, it could be me picking up that she's cold and might want a blanket. but I want to match my speed to her speed, how she's interpreting the world. And also how much assistance I'm providing is dependent on how much she's giving herself. She could just take that cup up off the table and drink it. I don't need to give it to her then. I don't need to get into hand under hand. I could pull back and she could do it herself. But perhaps she's down, or perhaps she's in a ruby state, and I might need to help her with that whole interaction, drinking that water. The other thing to think about is when we are communicating. Stephanie had just talked about that language reception and expression, and there could be a delay. There could be a long delay. And so let's practice that a little bit, shall we? So a person with dementia could take up to a few minutes to give you a response. And it might not be a verbal response, it could be a physical response, or pick up on the cue that you're providing them, or doing the task that you're helping them with. So let's practice that a second. We're just gonna, if you have a partner in the room, this would be a really good opportunity to get some practice with this too. So I'm going to say, Stephanie, it's time to go to lunch. Let's go. And then we'll see what happens, okay? So, ready? Stephanie, hi, it's Megan. Hey, Megan, hi. Hey, are you hungry? Let's go. Okay. How'd that feel?
Kind of long.
Yeah, we're in Sapphire State right now, so it's felt kind of long. And I don't know if you all tried it, how did that feel? Maybe a little awkward, little weird. And yet, if we allow that person to take the time that they need to respond to you, most of the time they'll be able to. I didn't interrupt her thought process either, and that was intentional, because that could interrupt that whole process and we'd have to start all over again. So just keeping that in mind as we're working with someone living with dementia and what they need from us to be successful. All right, so now we're going to get into hand under hand. Let's switch spots again here. So that hand under hand, we've done the approach. She's offered her hand. We're here now. And I'm doing hand under hand here is that butterfly motion, or birds, clasping our thumbs together. And what I have here is a literal physical connection between Stephanie and myself. There's a literal connection here between our hands. If I'm in her intimate space here, I could have that connection. You can't see my body, but there's that connection here perhaps with the whole right side of her body. Again, she's right-handed, so I'm on this side. If a person's left-handed, I'd be doing it backwards on her left side. I need to know how to adapt to that myself. Stephanie's right-handed and so am I, so here we are. Okay, so if a person is in amber state or ruby state or pearl, their nerve pathways, there are still some there. We saw that picture of the brain. There's a lot of the brain that remains. So there's some of those neural connections. However, their hand-eye skills may be impaired independently. So what we're doing here is providing that nerve pathway. We're connecting those circuits with that person. Stephanie, do you feel like you could push me away right now?
I could.
Do you feel like you're kind of moving your arm, even though I'm actually moving your arm?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not just saying that because I told her to. She really is.
Really.
We've done this before. So it allows that person to feel in control. Again, I'm not bending over her. How does this feel? Uncomfortable. She's not going to want to do whatever it is, and her body's going to seize up or move. She's going to move away, or she might hit me. And that's a behavior then, but it's really my fault. So anyway, so we have that physical connection. It allows us to do with, not to, and it gives us that opportunity to see, ooh, what are some of these possible problems here? If I were helping Stephanie brush her teeth, I would have, here's my skill fingers that Stephanie was talking about, losing on the left, that skill. That's what we're providing for her. She's still got that rhythm and that maybe that motor memory here. She knows I'm going towards her mouth. If I were helping her eat, she would automatically open her mouth if I had the fork with her here, if I were doing this correctly. So, but if I were helping her brush her teeth, and I'm going to say, ooh, hey, Steph, let's brush your teeth. I would show her what we're doing and I'd point here and I'd go, maybe I might tap on her mouth a little bit after all of that, depending on where she's at. And if you had something going on, what might you do? She might push me away. That tells me, ooh, wait. And I would say, oh, no, you don't like that. And she'd be able to say yes or no. That's a potential problem. Oh, now I have to be a detective again and say, what's going on? Right? And so I was like, no, try this side, try the other side. So maybe she allows me to do that. That narrows it down to what might be going on. Maybe she has pain over here. Maybe she just wasn't ready for me to go over to that side. Or maybe she has her own routine. That's up for me to figure out working with her in this way. That hand-eye skill, I want to make sure I'm in the midline of her body. Again, with those visual changes, I have to be aware. She may not be able to see everything from the side. If I were over here helping her brush her hair, for example, she likely wouldn't see me coming at her with the brush. If I came to her front line here and helped her do it herself, she'd probably be able to do that. Thank you, Stephanie. You're welcome. So again, we have to acknowledge where a person is and how much we actually need to step in and help them and provide the right level of support. So we're going to get into that now.
So the hand in her hand, that's something we are teaching all of our team members. So it's something that connects and comforts while directing gaze, which is following tasks. So I'm going to get into hand under hand with Megan. So we're doing the approach. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Stephanie.
See Stephanie.
Oh, hi, Stephanie.
We're gonna grasp hands again, make the butterfly with our thumbs interlashing. Close our fingers. I'm gonna get into her dominant side, which is her right side. And I'm gonna have, let's say, an agenda for her, like Megan was talking about brushing her teeth. So I'm gonna be like, Megan, I love your shirt. Thank you. How about we brush your teeth?
Okay.
So again, the toothbrush is in control, like she's taking control. And it makes them feel like they are doing it for themselves, because they may not have that fine motor, but it makes them feel like they are doing it for themselves and you're not doing it to them. So again, you want to stay in eye contact, whether she's sitting down, I would crouch down to get in her visual field. Do not lean in, because again, that feels invasive. So lean back if you have to. If she starts to push away, maybe you are too close. And it offers a sense of control even when you're doing almost everything.
So again, we kind of go through those tasks of how to be successful in that. So Stephanie did a great job of not touching my face until she gave me that visual and verbal cue and understanding where that person is at that moment. So thinking about brushing your teeth, we have so many opportunities in our own daily life just to do things automatically. Brushing your teeth, you don't even really have to think about it typically. You know, if I say that right now, you kind of understand what I'm saying. You may even get a visual thought in your head about what you do in your normal routine of brushing your teeth. With somebody living with dementia, that sequencing can be impacted. And so thinking about that automatic thing that you do every day, it takes a lot of steps. So thinking about getting to the room where your toothbrush is, and then we have to go into that room, and then we have to locate your toothpaste and your toothbrush and perhaps a cup or your mouthwash. And then we have to take the toothpaste and apply it to the toothbrush. Oh, but first we have to open that toothpaste and set the cap down and then hold it with our right hand, or maybe press it and squeeze it onto the toothbrush. And then we have to put the cap back on or set it on the counter. There's a lot of steps that we don't even think about. But a person living with brain change, that can become a big deal. So that's where this hand under hand approach comes in, where we step in just to the point that the person needs to. So we're doing it with someone, not to someone, with the acknowledgement that they've had some brain change. We just got to be that skill for that person to the point that they need it. So dementia robs skill before robbing strength. Lose on the skill on the left, retain strength on the right. And we use that hand under hand as support, not to do it to someone.
So as care partners, what do we need to do? First of all, take care of yourself. Understand the symptoms and progression of your person living with dementia. That way you have a better understanding of where they are visually and maybe cognitively. You're gonna build skill and support in caregiving, skill and communication and interactions, understand the condition of the brain, and identify and utilize local resources like the Alzheimer's Association and Area Agency on Aging. There's support groups. There's so many resources out there. Set limits for yourself, take breaks, get educated. The more you understand what is going on, the better you are able to take care of your person living with dementia or anybody you are caring for. And some key takeaways. The common goal is to meet the needs of the person living with dementia to the best of our ability. Not every situation is going to be perfect, and that's okay. We just keep trying the best we can. Persons living with dementia are influenced by their living space, the people and activities. That's why we try to keep it a positive atmosphere. No one can do this alone. It is a team effort. We are all here for each other. Ask for help, ask for support. There is so much out there to help you, to help families and team members. Persons living with dementia have no control over the changes in their brain and how it affects the way they engage. That's why it's important to be educated on it and where they are and how to take care of them best. And remain flexible and responsible. Again, there is no cure, there is just care, and that is where we come in, and we just try to make the best positive living environment for everybody.
All right, that's the overview that we had for you today, and I hope there were some questions added in. Joy, do you have some come up?
Yep, coming right back on now. So
Yeah.
give me a second here.
That's a lot of information, and we've had a lot of practice, so it's not gonna be perfect at, we're not perfect, we screw up all the time.
We're human.
We learn, and we acknowledge that fact that we need to have grace with each other, all of us. And Stephanie was talking about, nobody can do this alone. And there are situations that it does become frustrating and things happen. And we have to learn from that and learn with each other too, and with our residents and our families.
So I will give everybody reminders if you've got any more questions to submit, go ahead and do that now, because we'll try to take care of all of those questions before we leave today. But thanks for the presentation so far, ladies. You guys did a great job.
Thanks.
So let me start off with the first question here. So the first question is just, do all of your staff do this with residents every day?
The expectation is that our team members will get this training and how to approach all of, again, like I said, that positive physical approach is a universal approach. It's a respect thing, number one. We have to acknowledge our own environment and our own security in our own space. So we have to respect that for everybody. So yes, it is an expectation that our team members do use this approach. And you can imagine we have team members coming in, quite often new team members joining us. And so it's not a one and done training. It's an ongoing conversation that we have with everyone. And as we started out with this presentation, we talked about a lot of stigma and some stereotypes that people have because they don't know better. And so our jobs here are to provide our team members with the skills and the trainings that they need to provide excellent service and excellent care. So yes, it is an expectation that our team members know this information, get this information, and we're held accountable to provide it to them and work with them in this journey.
Okay, great. And then how have our residents responded to this approach versus, I guess, just normal care? I don't really know how to phrase that, but.
Well, I guess I would argue this should be normal care, right? That's the idea. And so when we allow, I'm going to use the air quotations, allow residents the ability to have that agency to be independent, to take risks on their own, and for our team members to have that awareness of what that means, everyone is better off. I can give lots of examples of positive responses to this approach. One very specific one, we had a gentleman who lived in the health center, and his processing speed was quite slow. And just talking about that break, like we have to wait a few minutes, say a couple of words to him, and allow him that time to respond, he will respond. A lot of people thought he didn't have the ability to speak. But once we gave him the opportunity to make that response, he was able to speak to us. And so that's pretty powerful, I think. Stephanie, did you have any examples of when you've seen this working? Or maybe even a coaching session? Maybe explain what a coaching session is to start
So-
out with.
A coaching session is like I present a subject in a team meeting or a team huddle at the beginning of the month, and it's up to the coaches and trainers to kind of capture what was taught in the moment, whether it be the approach or the connection or the hand under hand, and just be with staff to support them. And it's not that they're doing something wrong. It's we can probably find a better way to do it so it's more positive and our residents are more receptive and feel more respected in their space.
So I think about one of our coaches, Sonia. So I don't know that we explained about coaches and trainers either. So we have 6 direct care team members who are coaches. They're certified independent coaches, just like Stephanie is. And what that means is as they're interacting every day, day to day, working with residents here at Porter Hills Village, obviously we can't predict every situation that's going to come up. Everybody living with dementia is their own person. They have things going on. Maybe they have some illness coming in, an infection, what have you. So situations will come up that maybe we don't expect, or the coaches then will be working alongside that care team member to say, ooh, hey, time out. Let's try this. Or after an interaction, and it could be a positive interaction, we want to reflect with that care team member to say, what are 2 things that went well? And they could think about it. We're really hard on ourselves too. That's why we talked about the communication and how we got it wrong. We go there. Our idea then with this coaching is to find 2 positive things that happened and build upon that, and then think of one thing maybe that we could do better next time. So in that moment of that interaction, our coaches are in place to be able to do that with our team members. And I know this happened one time when a person who was in bed had a behavior and was combative. And so we reflected on that as a team and realized that the way that the team member was approaching this resident was from behind them. Where did we say we have to approach from? Approach from the front. So that person in bed didn't expect that they would be have someone behind them, didn't know what was going on. So that was a real aha moment with our team. And again, we learn every day about our residents and about what their needs are and how better to approach them. And this model has really been helpful to put that framework in place.
Yeah, I know it's really nice when I go up there and I see our caregivers. I mean, one, the peripheral vision for me, thinking about how they see the world really made a big impact for how I see it, and just thinking of how our residents are viewing things and their experiences and all of that. But seeing our team members relate to our residents in this way, and just what the big difference is between being in a memory care versus being in an assisted living setting. Having that specialized training, it really does make a big difference. So, well, so I do not see any other questions on here. I guess, ladies, is there anything else that you have people ask you throughout the days that pertains to the PAC training, or any family members asking anything?
Have you had any?
Just what it's about, how we're
Mhm.
implementing it, how it's going, just progress. And it's kind of a slow one, but it's there, it's getting there.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I hear is, when can I get this training?
Yeah.
It's like, we're getting there. It is a slow process, and that's almost intentional, because it has to go, it has to be ingrained into our culture, and we have to get the right training. It is an intense training for us to receive as coaches and as trainers. And I'm a dementia champion, or I'm a PAC champion teacher. It is a months-long training process that we went through with Tipa Snow's team. And then we have mentors that follow up afterwards. So it's quite intense and quite extensive. And we're at a point now that we are able to really see the fruits of that certification and providing direct training to our team members. And it's not a once and done thing. And the way we see it now is a little different than when we started too. So as Stephanie mentioned, we have ongoing monthly team meetings that we provide knowledge. We have day-to-day training opportunities with the coaching cycles. And then we have some real big opportunities for in-person multi-station trainings, which is really fun. We just did one in March, where we did the hand under hand and literally helped each other eat applesauce or literally brushed our teeth. And it was really interesting and fun to interact that
There was a
way.
lot of aha moments,
Mhm.
like Joy, like you were saying, like with the visual changes, like a lot of people don't realize that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's,
And I'm
Pretty
hopeful,
important.
yeah, now that we're at this phase, that we'll be able to offer some more education to residents throughout our community here at Porter Hills Village and perhaps some family members too. But really focusing on the team members in the health center and in our memory support areas so that they are the first to have that intense training. Expand it from there so that we all talk the talk and walk the walk.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, ladies. This has been a great presentation. I don't see any other questions that have popped up. So, at this point, was there another slide behind this?
Oh,
believe
I am so
so,
sorry,
yes.
Joy. Yes, of course there was. Sorry, I'm in
Okay.
control of the slides here.
Thank you. So the last slide, so I'd like to thank Riley. So she's been behind the scenes just helping to run things for us today. But anybody who has any other questions about our continuum or what it's like to be in our different care areas, I would be the one to help out with that and answer any questions. So please feel free to reach out to me. My information's posted right there. And we just thank you all for attending today and being a part of our presentation. So thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you. Have a
you.
wonderful day.